Greetings, everyone. It's great to be with you again. Thank you so much for joining us. Our presentation today is entitled Back on Track on the Mystical Path. By way of introduction, I'll say that the AMORC book, The Sanctuary of Self by Imperator Emeritus Ralph M has a section on the pitfalls of the mystical path. We'll follow up on that discussion and delineation, the challenges of the spiritual and knightly quest. We'll consider ways, when needed, to get unstuck and back on track in our lives for our full maturation on this greatest of all adventures. By mystical path, we're referring to the way through life that is the most mature, the most deeply understanding, the most loving and in service. By mysticism, we refer to the direct experience of the divine, the merging of the individual mind with the cosmic mind. We mean no intermediaries, no priest, no other. It's our immediate rapport with the divine, entering into cosmic consciousness, the experience of eternity now. And we can also look at it as we grow up in our lives. You can say, well, when we get to 18 or 21, we're adults. But in other ways, there's an even more tremendous growing up to be done over this lifetime, and indeed in a way in lifetimes. The mystical path is maintaining on that path of maturity and integrity. In this regard, I'd like to quote from the 80 aphorisms and maxims from the found mystic Louis Claude de Saint-Martin, who's associated with the traditional Martinist order and in that way with the Rosicrucian order. And I quote, "It is easy to understand why wisdom is folly in the eyes of the world. It is because it shows by our own experience that the world is a folly by its side. For where is there a seeker after truth, however ardent, who is not delayed by the way, and afterwards regarded oneself as a fool when they had resumed the path of wisdom?" Maybe we can identify that in our own life, staying on track in terms of what's important, what's essential, what are the deepest lessons we've had in our life, staying true to those. And we'll talk a little bit more about how that's done, staying on track, getting unstuck, and how it's done. We'll have a meditation first, led into, as we commonly do, with a work of art to inspire us. And we'll have the main body of the presentation. So in that regard, let me share with you now an image. You now see before you a most remarkable personage. She's known as Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz. She lived from November 18, 1648 to April 17, 1695. So it spanned her life during the 17th century in Mexico. She's also known as the 10th Muse. We know of the muses associated with the god Apollo. In a way, it was an appellation of her profound understanding of the arts, the sciences, and spiritual matters. She was also known as the Phoenix of Mexico. You see her depicted here when she was 15 years of age. Because of the misogyny or prejudice against women, much of her early education up to the age of 21, she had to do through her own tremendous self-motivation. True, there was others helped her get access to books. She learned Aztec. She learned Greek. She learned Latin. She learned the arts and sciences, theology, a tremendous understanding. One of her benefactors arranged for her to be questioned by learned persons in Mexico on various arts and sciences, and they were amazed by what she knew and what she could add to their own understanding, even as a teenager. Now, I'll show you a second work of art by her, or of her, I should say. You'll see here depicted a work that was actually done 50 years or about a half century after she passed through transition, experienced the great initiation. It shows her with her library of approximately 4,000 books. She's a nun in the order of St. Jerome. Uh, Jerome, the theologian, was a great impactor. She's actually reading one of his books there. You see that she has a shield under her neck there, depicting the Essene adept Mary, known in religious tradition as Virgin Mary, but in the Rosicrucian tradition, it's not a religion, it's a mystical path, but we understand through various spiritual traditions of the world the laws and principles by which they operate. You'll notice that there is a clock, which is symbolic that um, through all the trials and struggles that she went through, that truth came out right in time, that she's been properly known and assessed as indeed a person of great integrity. I'll give you a reference too to a lecture where an art historian goes into detail about the various books. They've been very carefully uh, described by the writing on the um, bindings, as you can see there. She was a great writer. She was a poet. She's viewed as an early feminist for her critique of how men were prejudicial to women. And she's been, maybe you've seen her on Mexican stamps and Mexican uh, uh, um, uh, bills and so forth. There's been operas, there's been a Netflix series done on her. Great revival of reinterest in her as a very progressive person. Did a great service to humanity. She was very well versed in the in mysticism and Hermeticism, and she was greatly taken with uh, Athanasius Kircher's works, his large works on the inner workings of the microcosm and the macrocosm. She even came up with a word she coined called to Kircherize, which means playfully tapping into the inner workings of the cosmos through science and philosophical and interior inquiry. You notice her gaze is directly at us. It's confident. She's showing herself with all these texts on theology and associated spirituality and mysticism that she's in the tradition uh, of the mystics and theologians of the ages. It's a bold claim, but it's a very apt one and correct one, which is beautifully shown here in this work. You can use this as an inspiring image to help draw us into the cosmic as we're about to ascend. And let us Kircherize, that is, playfully tap into the inner workings of the cosmos as we ascend into the cosmic. At this time, I invite you to close your eyes, and having been inspired by these works by the 10th Muse, the Phoenix of Mexico, let us rise up like a phoenix into the cosmic. And with your eyes closed, let's just do some simple neutral breaths, either holding the inhalation or holding the exhalation. Just enjoy the gentle rhythm of the breath. It's a very simple act of the holy temple that is our body. A very profound one. Whenever we're finding ourselves overwhelmed or stressed, let us return to the breath, and particularly extend the exhalation, which I invite you to do now, because that'll automatically lead to the relaxation response by stimulating the great vagus nerve in our body. It is part of the autonomic nervous system. And the calmness and tranquility that results allows us to think more clearly, see things from a larger and a more integrated perspective. It allows what the Rosicrucians refer to as the master within or the divine within, our deep guide in life, to come forward, help give us direction, calm us, let go of the stress and the feelings of being overwhelmed, be more fully ourselves. All this and more happens when we That is a discipline during meditation and as a habit throughout our waking and sleeping life. Breathe. In a way that takes in the oxygen fully into our lungs, charging the vital life force, vitality, life. Particularly if we can have as a habit, comfortable for you to extend the exhalation, have even more relaxation response. Now and always. Part of the mastery of life, or the living in harmony with all, within and without, and seeing the within and without in a unified way. And as you breathe, I'll play a piece of music by Sora Juana Inés de la Cruz, for she was a composer as well as a poet. And it's a very beautiful piece of music that is befitting for this occasion about temples and rising up to the celestial temple. So just continue to breathe in an unencumbered way and extend the exhalation. Now let us continue our period of meditation by applying the instructions of the Central Meditation booklet of the Rosicrucians, Liber 777. Purified by the breathing exercise and the wondrous music of our Sora Juana, I invite you to say with me now further prayer and invocation, applying the law of purification. We prepare to rise up to the heights of the celestial sanctum, in tune with the cosmic mind. May the divine essence of the cosmic infuse my being and cleanse me of all impurities of mind and body, that I may enter the celestial sanctum and attune in pureness and in worthiness. So mote it be. Now, friars and sorors and participants, continue with our eyes closed. Let us picture ourselves, visualize ourselves rising up from our home or our dwelling where we are. Look down on the building. Use all your inner psychic and imaginative capacity to see your neighborhood below you as you rise up, gaining in speed, seeing your whole town or city below you, the geographic area. Keep rising up, enjoying the exhilaration of the ascent, for it is our birthright. We'll apply the law of correspondence, for as we rise up into the cosmic, we'll go deeper and deeper to the divine within us and experience existence as a unity. So let's continue to rise. See below you now various landforms, weather systems appropriate to your area. You rise up and see now your state or province. You rise further and see the glory and wonder of it all. Great system and order, and radiate love and well-being to all creatures and humanity below. As we continue our exhilaration ascent, see now your great nation or country below you. Let us continue further using great inner spiritual force. Now is not the time to be passive. When we reach the heights of the celestial sanctum, we'll be passive and release and surrender. Continue upward using a great inner force. See below you now the continent where you dwell, and even the hemisphere, and now the great, beautiful blue jewel of the earth. See it revolving or rotating about its axis. And see the moon revolving about the earth. And look up and see the rest of the solar system, the great fiery ball of the sun, the wondrous elliptical orbits of planets, and the great extent beyond the planets that we're discovering more and more of. Continue to rise up beyond the sun and the planets, even out to the outer reaches of the solar system, and start to take in the nebulae, the comets, other stars, stellar phenomena, quasars and the pulsars, the supernova, even the black holes balancing the universe. You rise up more and more and sense the great structure of our great home, the Milky Way galaxy, its great spiraling arms. Let us even now continue faster and faster through the myriad stars and nebula, journeying through the vastness of the Milky Way galaxy, enjoying and being exhilarated by the ascent. As we go higher and higher, we go deeper and deeper within ourselves, to ultimately come to the mystical city of God spoken of by Sor Ioana. Let's continue to rise up and pass right out from the Milky Way galaxy and see its wondrous motion, colors. As we take in increasingly the full range of vibrations of what Rosicrucians refer to as the cosmic keyboard, the great sea of vibrations, which is situates the entirety of the universe. Sense increasingly as we pass higher and higher up in the universe, what Rosicrucians refer to as the cosmic, that is the universal intelligence back to the cosmos, and all natural and spiritual laws that we see displayed and portrayed before us and taught to us weekly in the Rosicrucian monographs and lessons. And pass by myriad stars and other nebulae and galaxies and keep rising up higher and higher, past clusters of galaxies and even superclusters of galaxies. Just continue to go faster and faster. Enjoy the wonder of it all. Experience in an inner psychic way what's been spoken of since antiquity as the harmony of the spheres, the great music of the cosmos that mirrors the inner music, the harmonious workings of our holy temple body and the great flows through the different systems of our body. It's mirrored in the cosmos. Whereas a microcosm, everything is matched in the macrocosm, the full extent of reality. Continue to rise and enjoy the beauty, the ascent, the exhilaration. At a certain point, I think you'll sense the vastness of the universe as a whole, revolving about a great cosmic axis, just as the Earth rotates about its axis. And the moon revolves about the Earth. And other planets in this Earth revolve in their orbits around the sun. And even the Milky Way galaxy, our great home, revolves about its center. So the entirety of the cosmos revolves about a great cosmic axis. Continue to move at speeds way beyond the speed of light towards the midpoint of that cosmic axis. And when you reach it, slow up and dwell there for a time, experiencing the stupendous harmony and order of the cosmic all about us, and sense the great universal intelligence imbued in all things. Let us follow further now the instructions of the booklet, Liber 777, that I'll give you a reference to towards the end of this presentation. Visualize your personal sacred space, the center of the cosmos, the center of your being. It may be an inspiring temple on earth. It may be the view all around you, or maybe some other inspiring place in nature, like a sacred grove, looking out on a seashore, or a high mountaintop, or some other choice of yours. Fill in the sights and sounds, make it real, make it vital in its visualization. You may wish to picture with you various smells and other stimulation of the senses, both physical and psychic. You may wish to picture stained glass windows depicting Rosicrucian laws and principles of the cosmic. You wish to picture with you all those who are on this conference call with us together, and all seekers, and all the officers, and grand masters, and imperator of our order may be conducting a special sacred ritual and convocation at this time. You wish to picture incense rising up and applying the law of transmutation, just as we rose up into the cosmic, by the law of transmutation. Turn it inward. Experience more and more the divine within. The center of our being, at the center of the cosmos. And when you've completed your visualization, release it into the subconscious and ultimately to the cosmic mind. Let us dwell for a time in silence, increasingly sensing the presence of the divine within, enriching and ennobling us, healing us, making us whole. Now, as we continue our meditation period, let's undertake another spiritual operation of the work and worship of the Rosicrucian Order AMORC. I invite you now to work together with me as part of Silent Council in conjunction with the Council of Solace of our Grand Lodge, the Rosicrucian Order AMORC. Let us radiate love and well-being to all those who have petitioned the Grand Lodge for guidance and healing. And let us radiate love and well-being to all those who have petitioned our Grand Lodge's affiliate bodies for guidance and healing. And let us radiate love and well-being to all those you know who are in need of guidance and healing. And let us radiate love and well-being to all sentient beings throughout the cosmos who are in need of guidance and healing. The radiations you may wish to picture like a great floodlight going out from your heart and mind at the center of the cosmos, the center of your being, a great flowing action. Or like water flowing out from a fire hydrant to all those in need and special service. See it radiating out to fill the cosmos. Use great inner force again to let it flow. But at a certain point, I think you'll find that it'll speed up and it'll go on its own. And then you can surrender again the heights of the celestial sanctum and continue to surrender as the flow of love and well-being continues. As we move increasingly from the finite plane to the infinite plane, and increasingly identify with our true nature, the divine within. So let the flow happen to all in need. Increasingly surrender to this action. Thank you for your work in this application of the law of service, the law of cosmic attunement. We'll formally conclude this period of work of the Silent Council in conjunction with the Council of Solace, but we'll continue our meditation. To formally conclude, I invite you to say with me, if it pleases the cosmic, it is done, so mote it be. And allow these radiations of love and well-being to continue as a way of life. And invite you now, expand your mind out to fill the cosmos, just as you've filled it with the love and well-being. To assume cosmic mind, to be the cosmic, the experiences the cosmic experiences. To fill the cosmos with your mind and the universal intelligence back of it now. Surrender to this expansion. An identification with our true nature. Just continue to surrender. That is, be receptive. To the deepest part of our nature, connected to all. Be one with the one. Now, before we begin our descent from the heights of the celestial sanctum, we may wish to invoke the law of gratitude, express our thanks for this opportunity to fulfill our birthright in cosmic attunement, to have applied the law of service for all in need, and express gratitude to all those who have taught us well, who have loved us well, who have guided us, just as they were loved well and guided down through the generations. Now let us begin our descent from the heights of the celestial sanctum, regenerated and remade. Let us speed a tremendous rate higher than the speed of light, past the superclusters of galaxies, the myriad stars and stellar phenomena, clusters of galaxies, the nebula, the quasars, the pulsars, the stupendous harmony and order of it all, this great rotating cosmos. Find our way back to our local supercluster and plunge into it. And through that, at tremendous speed past the myriad stars and galaxies, clusters of galaxies, to our local cluster of galaxies and plunge back into it, past the myriad galaxies and their wondrous shapes, and see in the distance the beautiful spiraling Milky Way galaxy, our great home. Let us enter in the arm where we dwell, past the myriad stars and stellar phenomena, enjoying the descent, taking with us the harmony of the spheres, and see in the distance the beauty of our solar system and the elliptical orbits of the planets, and the beautiful blue jewel of the earth, the temple of the earth. And let us return to the hemisphere where we left off, the continent, the great nation or country, our province or state, and the city or geographic area we left off. And let us say a further verification before we conclude formally this period of meditation. May the God of my heart sanctify this period of meditation. In attunement with the celestial sanctum, so mote it be. Let us continue downward to our neighborhood, the dwelling or building where we left off, the room and how we are situated, feeling rejuvenated, reintegrated, remade, all the more ready for the work and worship, now and always, of the Rosicrucian Order AMORC, fulfilling our mission in life. We wish now to stretch, open your eyes. We'll continue with the presentation. Thank you, everyone. Further on the topic now, back on track on the mystical path. Truly just accomplished, and he was needed. I'll mention various ways to stay on track, what's most deeply important to us in our life. There's many things could be said. I'll mention some of them on this occasion. One of the key ways to keep on track on the mystical path, doing what we need to do, ensuring that, yes, we're working with the trees, but we can see the forest in the larger picture, is to keep the touchstone experiences of our lives uppermost in our mind, to keep inspiring us daily. You may have had experiences of great love, great well-being, where you felt you were doing things right. It's good to have those experiences to come back to them, especially when we're feeling overwhelmed or challenged. Get back on. Because when we're feeling overwhelmed or stressed, our picture will be unclear. We'll tend to see things in a way that is not harmonious, less truthful, less accurate, less precise. We come back to those uplifting experiences if you've had deep mystical experiences or experiences where you felt great joy or love for someone. Remember those when we're having challenging times. Those will help set us back on what's true and right in our life. The Rosicrucians talk about having an outer self and an inner self. It's true ultimately, as we did in our meditation, we become one with the one. But to grow and learn, we apply the law of duality, and compare and contrast. We have a seeming outer nature and a seeming inner nature, even though they're one unity. That inner nature has resource of an infinite nature. We need to keep tapping into it, making sure it's our guide in life. Outer nature cannot guide us in our life. It's not its job. It doesn't have the capability. It doesn't have the inner infinite resources. Its job is to give information to the outer nature to give that to the inner nature, to the various aspects of consciousness that we learn in our weekly lessons as Rosicrucians, through the outer objective mind, subjective mind, into the subconscious mind, ultimately the cosmic mind, which is overarching all these. And our inner nature reflects that cosmic mind within us. That's what we need to increasingly identify ourselves with. Now, in this process, and often a pitfall of the path is once you start having these type of experiences, feel like a degree of superiority. That needs to be burned off. That will do us no helpful. Just as we talk about, we need to overcome an inferiority complex. We need to also overcome a superiority complex. We need to walk that middle path. We need to have an openness. That's fundamental to being human. If we don't do that, we'll experience this past Grand Master Robert E. Daniels used to say, life will teach us differently. We're very fortunate to have built in to the great temple of the cosmos all the laws and principles of our microcosm, and we'll feel the cause and effects, the law of cause and effect, the law of karma, and what we're doing. It behooves us to use these laws to ennoble and enrich us in harmony. Now, one thing that's quite notable on the mystical path is we'll tend to feel consequences quicker. We feel that in our affiliate bodies too when we interact with each other. There's by the law of transmutation, a quickening of the consciousness of those fellow workers in the divine vineyard. And we'll feel things get sped up in a way, even though it's a long term, it's a gradual process. As meditation, part of its value is we become more sensitive. So when we're getting off course, we're going to feel it more in our bodies, in our minds more quickly. In a way, it's like looking upon a pond that appears to have a very calm surface. Throw in a puddle, you'll see the ripples go out. If it had been very choppy water on that surface, throwing in a pebble will not be noticed. As we become more sensitive, we more quickly see effects and be aware. But the law of cause and effect, often they're very gradual in their nature, build up before we become aware of them. But with meditation, we can pick them up even earlier. And then it's easier to identify where the pause came from. Our lessons in our monographs give us a great deal of lessons about the various aspects of existence and relations within ourselves, with others, and the universe as a whole. The Rosicrucians have a beautiful word for this in Keeping on Track. It's called harmonium, harmony on all these levels. And that is what self-mastery is. Mastery is about this essential and all-encompassing form of harmony. You know, part of this challenge in dealing with the humility, that is the openness to learn, is something that is always before us, because in a way, the mystical path can be viewed in various ways. One is as a spiral going upwards, or as a helix going upwards. But each time as we come around, we're tested on the same way, and the virtues on a different level. We may have had, for example, thought greatly of our appearance or our physical strength and athleticism, and letting go of that. Yes, have a good sense of self-image and self-acceptance and self-confidence, and not sense of superiority, and come back also that self-aggrandizement We may have let it go physically, but have we let it go intellectually? Have we let it go psychically? Have we let it go mystically? There has to be this complete openness. Um, our outer nature will, yes, as an inner guardian, will help protect us. But much in our living is that increasing that sense of that openness, that willingness to learn from anyone, anytime. This is a challenge that Sorowana that I spoke of earlier had because of ideas about um, misunderstandings about men. Even those who were some who were mystically inclined, they had to learn from her or to be open to learn. One of the most important things is to learn from anyone, male, female, whatever gender. You know, one of the great lessons of the Europeans in coming to um, North America was they saw something among many of the nations, indigenous people. They saw women being treated well within their families, within their clan groups, and within their individual nations. And that was a tremendous learning opportunity for Europeans, but they didn't take it immediately, except for some women, particularly later in the 19th century. Some of the great uh, feminists coming out of upper state New York because of the Haudenosaunee, the Iroquois there, that had built into their society fundamental role of women in guiding it. So too in our own life, um, we have to be open and not see any degree of superiority. I know many of you enjoyed the movie Whale Rider. It takes place in New Zealand among the Maori. And there's a young child. She was born in the line of the chiefs, the Quinn, who died at the time or past time of her birth, which was to be the chief. And her grandfather, who taught the traditional ways, couldn't accept that he could have a granddaughter who could be the chief. But ultimately, he was humbled by her because she had the capacity to ride whales, and she had certain capacities to deal with harmony with the ocean. It took him back, and finally, he had said to her, the great leader, to forgive him, that he was just a fledgling compared to her. So we have to have that openness. Sometimes the children around us are our elders that have come back to us. Also, um, very important in these matters is that when we act in a way of self-aggrandizement or it is not useful, even abusive, we must realize that we're setting up a karmic effect. Just as karma can be used to have wonderful, uplifting experiences, it can also mean that we get a taste, to use a colloquial expression, a taste of our own medicine. Now, we may get it coming back the way that we mistreated one person, we get the same mistreatment. Or it may come back in some other way that's particularly aligned with us to learn the lesson. So it may appear differently, but it's still got the same important lesson for us not treat others in that way. This is an important part of meditation. It heightens what Rosicrucians refer to as the conscience, that still small voice within us, to know when we're getting off track, to get back on track. And the inner self will be very compassionate and caring for us. The outer self doesn't have to fear the inner self, just the opposite. It needs to embrace it. You know, many of the songs about romantic unions and popular culture and through the troubadours, the deepest nature and inspiration back in was to have that loving relationship, that mystical marriage between the outer self and the inner self. This is part of the deepest meaning in life. And when we have these deeper experiences, they transform our intellectual understanding and our capacity to know those things. You see, we get our deepest lessons when we have that inner mystical experience associated with those laws and principles. Then we can expand that lesson to actually now apply it and have that cosmic attunement to be emulated in our surroundings and our relations. And then we can take the lesson even further when we apply it in service. Because in all these experiences to lead to service. It's true there's ecstatic experiences that we have associated with meditation or in the wake of meditation. That gives us strength to continue and go on, but it's then to be applied in service. And as we apply in service, that'll then return back to help increase our attunement. But ultimately, not for any one person, but for the well-being of all. Then we come into the deeper and deeper understanding of life. Um, and we see the great system and order that is spoken to us. It's a gradual process, but at times there's great leaps forward. And part of that is we learn in our monographs and the laws, as we know them, we can less and less as we grow in our understanding of those laws with any excuse that I didn't know. Now we are responsible and we'll experience the consequences. Now this is down into the outer self, but the inner self knows and it will support us through this. You know, sometimes in this direct experience of life, you know, depending on how what things have been said to us and how we've been raised and so forth and things done learned, each of us must feel deep within we have our own beautiful, unique way through life. And yet there's a universal pattern back. It's that universal pattern that our monographs teach us about. And we have the opportunity to apply them in our own unique way. Each of us, I know, we talk about life and experiences. We know each person has it, to use it for the phrase, each person has their own psychology, their own motivations, their own backgrounds, things that happen, their strengths and so forth, and what they particularly see in the laws and principles. But ultimately, we're going to that universal understanding as we increasingly mature. We'll become, in a way, a greater and greater individual. It's true, but we'll also become greater and greater in our capacity to express that uplifting expression of the cosmic mind. And then we can be of even more service to others. All the things that we were fearful start to drop away. All the things that we coveted and held on to that weren't of value, they'll drop on. I assure you, just as past Grandmaster Miriam and Andrea says in regard to two books I'll give you the reference to, that anything of value will be spiritualized through law of transmutation and something of even greater beauty that we'll take with us forward and be able to give back to others. For as truly as the traditional Rosicrucian Albert Hubbard said that, like the Roycrofters, the things that we love the most are the things that we give away. Now, all important in this is to be meditating daily, doing the exercises with our psychic centers, the vowel sounds, the visualizations, all these things to be done together in a daily way. You can do them in a way that's one exercise after the other, like we practiced in our meditation today, because the Rosicrucians are very practical. We want to have that firsthand direct experience and go into life. This is why we're on this nightly quest, this greatest of all adventures. All other adventures from the mystical path are on the way, by the way, and leading and helping and supporting it. Now, important part of all this process is letting go. And by letting go, we mean let flow. We also mean let the inner self come forward. We also mean entering into that more integrated state that comes about through meditation and in the wake of meditation. It is a build as a way of life through the meditative and Rosicrucian laws and principles of application exercises and through service. And when we have that integrated state of mind, we can come back to issues. We don't ignore them. In meditation, this way of life is a profound act of non-avoidance, but we come back with that more integrated state of mind. We can see and embrace things for their ennobling lessons. Then we're truly growing up into the cosmic. You know, we can feel or sense inwardly that we're being drawn towards great well-being and clarity. We know when that's happening, the master within, our true nature, has declared itself. The more we're experiencing that, the more we're well along on the mystical path. Important part of life is lessons. Every day is chock full of them. And we've got to make sure, it's one of the pitfalls on the path, is resisting lessons. We've got to make sure we're not resisting lessons. It's up to us, true, how steep a climb we want to go up the mountain of illumination. But if we resist lessons, we'll tend to keep us on plateaus. There's no what sometimes people refer to as a spiritual bypass. Sometimes it's thought that I've had a lot of challenging experiences, difficult experiences. I don't really want to face them. Can't I just do an end run around them and get to these beautiful traumatic experiences and forget like they never happened and let go of them? The answer is no. Part of the reason we have these beautiful, profound experiences is so we can have the strength to transmute those things, those experiences. And when they're transmuted, then we'll be all the more lifted, no longer weighed down. A lot like the allegorical tale of Christmas Carol, uh, where Scrooge sees the way he's been living. He's transmuted. He faces himself through those three visitations he has on Christmas Eve. And then he has great joy, relief finally. In other words, there's been an unblocking to let the love flow. You see, an important part of the mystical path is learning how to disarm ourselves. It's true the outer self has a very valuable nature to protect us with the outer senses. That was part of the role of the guardians in Plato's Republic when it's viewed microcosmically. It's very important to have our outer senses highly developed, reasoning highly developed. The lessons do that. But often we may be too put up our guard too much. Sometimes in my contact with children or animals, they've disarmed me by just the purity of their actions. And that allows those earlier experiences from the master within to come up through our contacts during meditation, finally declare themselves and be ennoble and enrich us. And also this capacity to be ready to learn and not resist lessons. It's disarming of the outer self when it's needed, so the inner self can come forward into this new way of life so we can be remade, rejuvenated. Important part of this resisting the lessons, we can ask ourselves, we're feeling strong, what are we avoiding? They're great lessons for us. Our strength needs to be applied for the welfare of ourselves. That is our strengths, whatever they are, and others, not to their detriment. This is one of the keynotes of knighthood. We need to give without experience of return. How are we giving back as those who gave to us without thought of return? As we let go of the resistance to lessons, applying the law of resistance, we'll be able to come more and more to embrace what we're avoiding for their life-giving lessons. Know why we had to experience them, and we'll have a cosmic perspective on them. And then in service for those who are experiencing similar or akin, we'll be able to help assist them pass through the threshold into that new way of living in mastership. In all of this, our greatest teacher is always the master within. That it's true that it's wonderful to have teachers. I know when past Imperator Ralph M was in his office, he often had to redirect aspirants to the divine within, their master within, just as he was attuned with. Because even they may wish to so highly respect and have a degree of devotion to them, it is not the way of the master within and the mystical path. In this also, we'll be able to have all the more greater respect and understanding of those who have gone before us. Now, as we grow and mature, sometimes the analogy is made with the work in a blacksmith shop from earlier times. When an iron rod, for example, is heated up or steel is heated up, and it passes through various colors, like such as from a dull red onto a bright red, an orange, a yellow, and progressively to a white, and even finally a blue. In a way, we're making a similar alchemical and transmutative experience. But when we've reached each color or stage, we've got to think, oh, I've arrived. No, always a student. And that will allow us to progress and have even greater cosmic attunement. I've mentioned at this time some of the ways and pitfalls of the path to be aware of, and maybe a topic we can pick up further in various ways. And I know you have your own ideas about these matters as well. Be aware that we're being constantly observed, but in a good way. We're always setting an example. We need to accept that and set the best example that we can for indeed that is the strongest way to teach. And the master within will help us in this. Our lessons in the order will always do this for us. I'm going to move to my concluding statement, and I'll ask at this time Karen will paste in the chat. The resources will go into 3 pastes, and there will also be a PDF document you may wish to download with resources to explore these matters further, along with the Rosicrucian weekly lessons. And by way of conclusion, I'd like to say that the AMORC book, The Sanctuary of Self, by past Imperator Ralph M. has a section on the pitfalls of the mystical path. We've followed up on our discussion and delineation of those challenges on the spiritual and knightly quest. We've considered ways, when needed, to get unstuck and back on track on the mystical path for our full maturation on this greatest of all adventures. We have the enormous good fortune to pass through the portals of each degree and stage of the teachings of the Rosicrucian order. And if with each passage, our responsibility increases to set a higher and higher standard of living and conduct, increasing identification and surrender with the divine within will allow this process to take place, not for our self-aggrandizement, but for the well-being of all. Thank you very much for joining us as we've continued to explore Rosicrucian laws and principles and their creative expression and application for the mastery of life, harmonious living, and service.